the wildest goat, blue cactus baby. He is a sweet boy. That's really a me problem, you know, I can admit that. Hello and welcome to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. I am still dealing with a little bit of a cold. When I get a cold, it can last for several weeks, so I might sound like this for a little while. I wanted to answer a very common question that I've been getting lately, which is how do you raise your goat kids? So you can see that I have a bottle in my hand right now. This is really not my preferred method for raising babies. I like to dam raise here. The female goat, she's the dam. And the male goat is the sire, the daddy of the babies. And so when you dam raise, you just allow the mamas to do it. And for me, that is the easiest. I have a lot going on here on my homestead, and if I can let them kind of do their thing, they're gonna do the raising for me. And then I can also benefit from things like a kid share. So let's say I do get really sick and I'm down and I can't milk, I can just leave babies on and they're gonna keep their mama's udders drained, and it's just less work on me. But sometimes dam raising creates some wild kids because the babies aren't used to people. In the last handful of days, really about a week, it's been pretty darn cold here, and it hasn't been as easy as it normally is for me to sit with the babies and socialize them, because that is what I normally do. I have some very social dam raised goats in my herd, because in the past really all it's taken is just 20-30 minutes a day of literally sitting down with the new babies and letting them jump all over me and just get used to people. But I haven't been able to be outside that much. Some of them, really it's just one that's pretty wild, so I'm gonna try to give her a bottle, because this is something else I will do if I've got a wild baby, or I've got maybe a set of triplets where one is falling behind. I will kind of co-parent with the mama and feed bottles. Good morning. So here are a couple of Elsa's babies. This is Tori's baby. I have named them all, and we'll go over their names in a little bit. Tori's the bottle baby. She's an adult now, so she doesn't need this, but she knows what that is. So we've got quite a few babies here. You can see many of them are quite social. We will go over their names in a little bit, but before this bottle cools down, I want to grab our wild one. Got some babies out here, checking out the ice. So we only had one polled baby born this year. I had thought both buckskin does were polled, but this little girl, I just had to disbud her because suddenly some horns popped through. This little polled girl though, she's kind of wild, and she's also claimed, like someone wants to buy her, and I don't really want to sell someone a wild goat. Like, I don't want to sell somebody a goat that's hard to handle. That's not going to be a fun experience. So I'm gonna try to get her without scaring her. I don't really want to chase her, but I do want to see if we can convince her that this is good. All right. Come here, sweet girl. I don't really know how she got wild. I guess with some of them it's probably personality, because for some of these goats I haven't had to do much at all and they're just people friendly to begin with. So I imagine it's possible for a goat just to be kind of automatically not people friendly, and we don't want that. So because she's been on mama, and she's been on mama for couple weeks at this point, this is probably not going to go super well at first. Oh, she did swallow a little. She is drinking it. So this is good. There is hope for this little girl. So those of you that have been following the channel a little while may remember last year we had little Miss Winnie, who was literally the wildest goat that we have ever had, Nigerian dwarf. She's the first doe that we got out of our blue cactus buck, Nefarious. So obviously I planned on keeping her, but I didn't want a wild goat. Nobody wants a wild goat, you guys. And so I had tried to kind of co-parent with Winnie's mom in this same way, but Winnie would not take a bottle. Like, she flat out refused. I had to completely remove her from her mom before she would take a bottle, and now Winnie is the most in your pocket goat that I have. She's very friendly. It was totally worth doing. So really, like, I like to dam raise, but there are situations where I will alter my preference if it's going to make for a better goat. Even though it's, to me, it's a little bit more work, it's worth it in the long run. Do you want more? So it really won't be long before this little goat associates me with food, with something good. And I can leave her with her mom. She can drink on mom. I probably only have to do this maybe once a day. But she'll see me coming and she'll get all excited for her supplement. And then she'll be a friendly goat for someone. And that's what I want. I don't want to hand off a problem to anyone. Or disappoint them by saying, sorry, that goat that you wanted, she's now too wild and I can't sell her. Because that's heartbreaking too. Off. Off. Is that good milk? I know. I don't want you to overeat necessarily, but that was all the way full. She got quite a good bit. There, see, we're good. So I've been calling this one Spaz, just because that's how her personality has been. That is not what her name is going to be, I'm sure, once her owner picks one. Hopefully she becomes the exact opposite. Look at her cute little part. She's got a little center part. Very trendy, ma'am. Do you want that? Do you not remember what it is? Oh, Winnie. Hi, guys. So one of the goats that I want to keep, who's also a blue cactus baby, is Melee. This is the doe out of Elsa. She is a titch wild. Can you see she's a little bit not sure about me? I can come up to her and pet her, but still, she does a little bit less of a run towards me and a little bit more of a run from me, and I don't want her to go in the other direction. So we're gonna try her too. Oop. Now, her mama makes a ton of milk, so I don't imagine she's hungry in the slightest. Oop, oop. She's getting it too, though, just a little. They're really kind of not sure about it at first. They're kind of sloppy with it in the very beginning when they haven't had a bottle before. And I have another bottle that is supposed to be designed for dam raised babies to be able to take it. One of the reasons I don't like the bottle necessarily until we really get them trained is because they have to put suction on the nipple first before milk comes out, and a lot of dam raised babies, they don't know what you're trying to put in their mouth. This one, it does drip, see that? And so when it gets put into their mouth and milk enters their mouth, they're like, oh, that is what this is for, and they're a lot more likely to take it. This is called a Pritchard teat, and it goes on any soda bottle. This is like a glass ginger ale bottle or something. I don't remember what it was, but any kind of like soda bottle type threading works really well. Yeah. You don't want a ton, huh? She's not super hungry. I didn't expect her to be. But now we've got the idea of it going for her. Oof. Look at this giant kid. She's not even 2 weeks old. A mini La Mancha. Gracious, you're a beast. Yeah, so this is Melee. Just going with our chaos and pandemonium theme, huh? This is my keeper doe out of Tori. She has a little bit of a weepy eye going on. I've been cleaning it and watching it, but her name is Missy. I had called her Lil Miss from the very beginning and it stuck. So that's her registered name, Sage and Stone's Lil Miss. And we'll call her Missy. And I don't know, Missy's a single. And so I don't know if she really is gonna take this either. Missy's pretty friendly though, so she doesn't really need to. Ooh. Here. Here. Come on. I know it's hard. Look at that. Look, look, look. Milk. She's like, what is going on? Off. Off. She doesn't want it, and she doesn't really need it. Missy will come up to me. Missy is catchable and handleable, and we love her. She looks just like her daddy, Feral. And actually, I got a lot of comments when Missy was born. Lots of people said, dang, that is a big goat. Missy is actually the smallest mini La Mancha that was born this year. Even out of those that had triplets and all that. She is the smallest. She has the most Nigerian in her, and she came from the smallest mama. I think the reason that people thought that she was so big is because her mom is really small, and so it's really, she had a small mom, not that she's a big kid. She's growing well though. Yes, she is. She's an F2 mini La Mancha with the gopher ears, the little tiny ring of skin around the ear canal, as opposed to the elf ear. My buck that I'm keeping this year has an elf ear. I'll grab him next. He's a big boy. So this is Melee's brother. I have named him Ruckus, Sir Ruckus. And I had said that he was a Chamoisé, and a lot of people were like, Heather, that's not a Chamoisé. I guess Chamoisés need to have the black undersides. He does not. And I believe his coloring is called Bezoar. It is a color that I hadn't heard of, but when I looked it up, I think you guys are right. And he does have these little elf ears. Can you see them? They look like little bat wings. Some of them can be a little bit more pointy than others, but this is the kind of ear that you get when you cross a Nigerian dwarf with a standard La Mancha. And he is a sweet boy. He's huge. I really love his dark coloring. His mama is the same coloration, but she's lighter. She's a lot like Melee in color. And he is just so sweet. I don't think we need to try to shove a bottle down his throat. I really don't want them to be scared of me because they're like, what are you doing to me, lady? But, so we've been handling him well. And he's friendly. You can run into issues with making bucks bottle babies. I love my bottle baby bucks. I would rather have a bottle baby buck than a wild one that I can't catch or handle. That's true, but sometimes bottle baby bucks can be a little bit too much when they get older and they get into rut. They can be kind of pushy, especially if you've got a big one. And so having a little bit of distance but still letting the buck be catchable is probably good. So I'm not gonna train him to a bottle. Another keeper kid of mine from this year is this beautiful doe. She's also really big, but she's 90% La Mancha. This is Frenzy. This is Elpis's little doe with wattles. She's a Swiss coloration, and she's also very friendly. She can be a little bit skittish, like if she gets some influence from some of the other goats. So I'm gonna see if she'll take a bottle for me, but she probably won't. She's essentially a single at this point. I guess maybe she's technically a twin, but right now she's a single. We did lose her brother pretty early on. Oh, it's hard to teach them to eat when they're huge. Here, I'm trying to set you on my lap. Here, look. Look, this is fun. He's like, no. No, it's not fun. Look. Look, baby. There she goes. This is starting to cool down a little bit, but she's taking it a little. Oof, sorry, you're still tender on your head. There, that's better. Yeah. Over under the heat lamp right here, this is Ilara's little buckling named Gary. His family has named him Gary McSpots. And Gary is so friendly. Gary is actually the brother to that little wild girl, Spaz, that we dealt with in the very beginning. And his personality has been super friendly from day one. He's just been so cuddly and so sweet. And he was originally going to be in our meat goat program, but I had somebody waitlisted for a wether, and so I emailed them and I said, listen, I have the prettiest and friendliest little wether for you. So he's going to a pet home, or at least he will be a friend to a buck at that home. I wanted to wether him simply because he's not worth selling as a herd sire. His mom's udder is really not the greatest, and so that's what goes on here. We don't necessarily sell every buck as a potential breeding buck because they're not all qualified. I do have plenty of really nice udders to sell bucks out of. And so we've got actually a couple more here that are gonna go in the freezer. I've called this one White Boy and this one Black and Tan Boy. I know those aren't the best names, but those are freezer goats. And sometimes I will give my freezer goats some good names. I've got another one over here, I think. Yeah, he's out here playing on the ice. This dark chocolate boy out of Shindy, he is gonna be a freezer goat as well, mostly because Shindy had a threatened prolapse. And just in case that threatened prolapse is something that is genetic, it's not always, but it could be. I don't really want to pass that on to another herd. So just as a precaution, I'm making him a freezer goat, and I've named him Willy, like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, because that's what he is. He's a chocolate, and he was really, really friendly until he got his disbudding, and now he's decently scared of me, which is kind of sad. I just want to... He's not gonna let me touch him today. I really like even my meat goats to be handleable because it allows me to take care of them better throughout their life. I mean, he'll be here for 8 or 9 months before he goes into the freezer, and there's things that I'll have to do with him, like trim his hooves and make sure that he doesn't need dewormers and things like that. But I'll work with him. It's warming up. These two out here, we haven't talked about them. This is Elsa's other buckling that was born, one of her triplets. So this is the brother to Melee and Ruckus, and he has a home. So we have been working with him to make sure he's friendly. He's obviously doing good with that. I haven't officially named him either. I've just been calling him Nora's baby because Nora is his new owner. And this is Winnie. She was the crazy one from last year. Clearly, the bottle did its job with her. Yes, it did. And this little girl back behind Miss Winnie, we are calling Red. Redemption is her registered name. This is the doe out of Shindy. She has the wattles, you can see. And she's another one that she's just been super friendly from day one. And so she really hasn't been hard to handle at all and keep her friendly. This is Breezy's little buckskin that I had to disbud yesterday. She's not super happy with me at the moment. Hi, baby. Like I mentioned with a little chocolate boy that we're calling Willy, sometimes if you catch them and then do something a little bit scary like disbud them, that trust can be lost, the trust that's been built up. So we're having to work with her again. She is going to a home that normally bottle raises. And so they're used to really good, friendly goats. We want you to stay that way. Yes, we do. She's a single, so she's just holding it in her mouth. You want to drink it? It's pretty cool at this point. Your disbud looks good though. It does, it looks good. So we're just gonna build our trust back with this little girl. I usually will have my children down in the barn with me while I'm milking, and during that time they will be playing with the babies, and them playing with the babies really helps socialize them. But again, it's been too cold, but we'll be able to start that back up again and get these guys more friendly. She was really good before we disbudded her. Yeah. See, I'm good people. There. Good girl. And then there are a couple of little bucklings that I really would not mind selling as herd sires. They are out of Tizzy here. Tizzy has a really nice soft udder, and really my criteria for selling bucks is, if I had the chance, would I use that buck in my herd? And the answer is yes. I really like Tizzy's udder. This is only her first freshen, and things can change, but usually they don't change in a negative direction. Sometimes a half okay udder will be really awesome in their second season. I've not ever seen where a really nice udder changes for the worst. Maybe with something like longevity, like let's say she only really milks well for about 12 weeks and then her production just drops off. That would be something that we wouldn't want to pass on, but I've never ever seen that in my herd. I have several goats in this line. She's out of a buck that we had named Havoc. Havoc daughters tend to milk really long time, and so I don't think that's going to be an issue for her or her babies. And here are her boys. I've named them Teddy and Bear. Teddy has the elf ears, so he's got kind of little teddy bear look to him. He's also longer haired, and Bear is a little bit friendlier. He has the gopher ears, and he's a little bit redder in color. And Bear also did get a little moon spot from his mama. Tizzy has kind of some hidden moon spots. You can really only see them when she has had her summer shave, but he did get one. So yeah, Teddy and Bear. These are goats that I really wouldn't mind selling as bucks instead of putting them in the freezer. The only thing with these two is they are technically grade mini La Manchas. So if you know anything about the registration paperwork, or if you care about that kind of thing, these guys are not really high up on the scale. It's not because they're not quality, they just don't have the pedigree behind them. They don't have the records behind them because they are out of my Christine line. And Christine is a standard La Mancha that I have who comes from really good lines, but I was unable to get her paperwork transferred over to me. It was a whole thing. It was a fiasco. So we had to start from ground zero with that line. And so I have Christine as native on appearance as far as her paperwork goes. Elpis is out of Christine, Tizzy is out of Elpis, and then we've got this guy out of Tizzy. And so the pedigree is being worked on, it's just not complete. So they're not technically F anythings, they're F0s or grades. So besides the fact that milking is a little bit easier on me, what are other benefits of dam raising the babies? Clearly bottle raised babies are friendlier, but it's not impossible to make a dam raised baby friendly. This is Bear here. Bear is a very sweet little buck. This one, this is Red. She's a sweet little doe. She's gonna, woo, he just hit the thing. Sorry if it's a little bit wobbly. I really like the babies to be able to have full access to their mamas, to know how to be a goat. One of the bigger issues that we've had with bottle babies that we've purchased before is I find that the bottle babies get into trouble more with toxic plants. They don't know what's toxic and what's not necessarily, just by nature. But these babies are big enough now. We don't really have a lot of grass on the ground right now, but there's a little bit. But as they get older and they're grazing with their moms, what they'll do is they'll graze nose to nose with their mamas. You can watch this. It's very fascinating to see. They will be right there alongside mama, picking at the things that she's picking at and learning what is safe to eat and what is not safe to eat. That has a lot of value to me. And this isn't always true, but it's something that I have noticed before, where sometimes goats that have been bottle raised from birth maybe don't have the best mothering instincts. Sometimes that mothering can get a little bit bred out of them in several generations of bottle babies. If you don't allow them to mother, you don't really know about their mothering instincts, and that's not everybody's goal. I'm not trying to say that I have the best way to raise goats. I'm just raising them in a way that makes goats easiest for me, and somebody else could do something completely different and that makes goats easiest for them, and they're both really good ways to raise goats. There's no one right way. Oh girl, I forgot I had my braid in. I don't wear a braid a lot, but I really don't want them chewing it in half. It's taking me a long time to grow my hair out. Yeah, you sweet girl. So potentially we get some better mothering instincts, or at least we know what the mothering instincts of our does are if we allow them to mother. And this isn't possible in every situation. We do disease test our herd every year, and we are a clean herd. But if you had something pop up like CAE, that is something that you would have to pull kids and pasteurize the milk before you feed it kind of situation. And those, I mean, that's a valid reason to pull kids and bottle feed. There's a lot of valid reasons for that, that's for sure. No, that was Willie. See, he's coming around. And Teddy will come around too. It's been maybe 5 or 6 days since they got their disc bud. And obviously this isn't always the case, but a lot of times a dam-raised baby will have access to milk longer in their life than a bottle-raised baby. I know that for me, I get kind of tired if I'm having to feed bottles for 8 and 12 weeks. I get pretty burnt out at the end, and I'm like, you know what? You can wean. You're 8 or 9 weeks old. I'm done with this. I'm gonna start weaning you. And that's really a me problem, you know, I can admit that, that's for sure. But as far as like little goats like this one here, little Red, she can be on her mom for however long. Eventually her brother, when he turns, he's back here, when he turns 8 weeks old, I am gonna remove him from this pen just so he can't accidentally breed some of my smaller goats. Like Winnie is a very small Nigerian dwarf, and he will absolutely be able to reach her. So I'll pull him out, and at that point, I will be able to get quite a bit of milk out of Shindy while leaving her on. And if I felt like I needed more milk, I could always do a teat tape. So I have this medical tape, and I'll show this later on in the year when we get to that point, but you can just put the tape around the teat, and that will prevent them from getting milk for however long, 12 hours if I decide to do that. And I can leave her with her mom and reduce the stress on her while still being able to benefit from getting mama's milk. So you can do what's called a kid share. A lot of people will do a kid share. I think Willie's becoming more friendly. And in a kid share, you will separate mom and baby either overnight or during the day, depending on your schedule, for about 12 hours. And in that time, mama's udder fills up, and then you can milk it out. And she doesn't normally give the entirety of her udder. She will hold back for her babies, and then the babies will have access to mama for the next 12 hours. That is a great thing that a lot of homesteaders really like to do. And that's something that I have done in years past, but I have a lot of goats in milk at this point, and I really haven't had to put babies away or teat tape at all, because I have goats that kidded in fall time. Their babies are already weaned. I don't have to stop milking them until they are 3 months into their next pregnancy, and we haven't even bred yet. So we'll breed them in May for fall babies, and by then some of these boys will have weaned, so we'll have a ton of milk. And that overlap really helps us be able to leave babies on, and it just makes all of this easier on me, and it's, you know, a little bit more natural for them. As you can see, we do disc bud our babies. I don't do vaccinations for anything in my herd. We don't feed like anti-coccidia medicine on a regular basis. I do have some, but it's one of those things where I'm a little bit worried about parasite resistance. You hear a lot about parasite resistance with worms, but the same thing can happen with coccidia, and really we do deal with a fair bit of coccidia here, and when I see symptoms crop up, I do treat for it, but it's not something that I treat prophylactically for or feed the coccidia medicine every, you know, so many weeks, because I am worried about creating resistance in the coccidia that we have here. I mentioned it a little bit before, but our weaning age for boys is 8 weeks. Some people will leave them on up to 16 weeks, and that works for them. It makes me nervous. They say that the boys are not able to breed until they are able to extend, if you know what I mean. But if I'm seeing an extension, I don't know that the first time I've seen the extension is the first time that they've made that happen. And really, if they can impregnate another goat at that point, I don't know that they wouldn't have done it by the time that I saw the extension, you know? So it makes me more comfortable to wean the boys at 8 weeks. Sometimes I will band at 8 weeks, but I'm moving more away from that. If I have to leave the bucklings with their dam for whatever reason, I will band at 8 weeks, because they'll be in here with the rest of the herd that I don't necessarily want them breeding. But if I can, I like to separate the boys fully intact and let them get a little bit older before we band them. It's just a little bit easier on their bodies. If you band them too soon, you can create some scar tissue really close to the urethra, and especially if they're going to go home as pets and they're going to have a really long life with someone, you don't want the risk for urinary calculi to be there. That scar tissue near their urethra can make the urethra narrower, and any kind of stones that could develop can get caught, and it can be a pretty big problem. We have dealt with urinary calculi one time here, and it was actually in an intact buck, and it was a very hard situation, and that's something that I hope you guys never have to deal with. So if at all possible, make sure that your feed, especially for your bucks and wethers, has a 2-to-1 calcium to phosphorus ratio and contains ammonium chloride. If your feed does not contain ammonium chloride, you can buy it powdered and add it in. Ammonium chloride kind of breaks apart these calcifications that can happen inside of their bladders and reduces the risk of stones. Trying to think of what else kid rearing that we do that I could talk about. Yes, are you being very, no one's hearing what I'm saying because Willie is just too cute. And so is Gary. I'm really happy he found a home. I am, Gary. So yeah, I may have missed something. And if you have more questions, please leave them down below. I try my hardest to at least skim my comments and find the questions and pick them up. If I happen to not answer you, go ahead and send me an email. I'm happy to help. One of the reasons I started YouTube was because I had gotten a lot of benefit from other people showing how they did things on their YouTube channels, and I just wanted to be part of that discussion. So these are actually not the last babies of the season, and I do have some more potential keepers that are going to hit the ground in the next week. We have 2 goats due in about 6 days, so stay tuned for more birth videos. These pants were clean when I put them on this morning.